And our next speaker is going to be Tom Plante. If you were here last year, you heard him speak, so he'll be appending that speech this year. He's the Director of Strategic Planning. He's responsible for the development of the company's annual strategic plan and maintaining a comprehensive analysis of the defense business environment, focusing on the Navy, Department of Defense, and defense industry base. He's a graduate of Rensselaer Polytech Institute with a BS in mechanical engineering and then a master's in computer science. He spent 4 years in the Navy as a sonar and weapons officer. He joined Electric Boat in 1984 and served in various positions till where he's now. He led the proposal of development for the third block of the 8 Virginia-class submarines, which began construction in 2009. So, Tom, if you could fill us in.
So it's good to go last. Al asked me to think about what we need going forward to be ready to do our mission, which is build submarines. So what I heard today was, first speaker talked about fostering innovation. I'm saying, yep, we need that. Second speaker talked about creating an environment that attracts people. Yep, we need that. Third speaker talked about how we encourage small business growth. Yep, we need that. Fourth speaker talked about the sub-base and the relationship there with Electric Boat and military affairs in the region. Yep, we need that. So great job putting this program together, Al. I'm going to give you a sense. As Al pointed out, I started Electric Boat in 1984. So it's about 33 years ago if you do the math. And in 1984, we were a hop in place. And so that was really a time frame where we were at peak demand. The last time we had to build 2 types of submarines, SSN, fast attack submarine, and an SSBN. And that was hitting more of the peak demand. So for those of us that were around in that time frame, what we did in that time frame was pressurize this region. All parts of our economy were totally pressurized at that time. We had over 22,000 people. When I talk about our region, I'm talking about the region that consists of Quonset Point, Rhode Island, which is where our manufacturing, the beginning of the process, where most of that work's done. I talk about Electric Boat and the sub-base where we have a lot of engagement, and now we have the New London facility that we moved into back in 2010. So you ought to be thinking about, as I go through this, we're really going to be putting pressure on just about every aspect of the economy, from bringing people in to having people have a place to eat when they leave work and they're dead tired, which is what we hope we get. I got 3 other people supporting me here from our team here, Electric Boat. Sue Adams in the front here, she does our government relations. Liz Power back at the table back there, she's our communications director. And Christine Kennard, who's right next to her, she has the awesome responsibility of transforming the Groton waterfront to support what I'll be talking about here. So I get to, since I talked last time, and thanks for the invitation back, I guess I didn't flub it up too much. Whenever you're on YouTube, you're always concerned about the problem's gonna be here. It's all filmed. There's been a significant change since my last report to you a year ago. And what you have is a change in administration. There's some policies that are trying to be implemented that are really pro-growth. The fleet, the Navy fleet issued a force structure assessment that said we need more SSNs and more ships in the fleet. The fleet's going to go from 308 ships, total capital ships, to 355. That's a 15% increase. On the submarine side, the Navy wants more submarines. Today, the force level is structured around 48 submarines, and what the Navy's desire is to have 66. It's not just the Navy desire, it's really the force commanders that are out there on the front line doing the national security. So they're looking for 66 submarines. So if you do the math from 48 to 66, that's a 37% increase. That's the one category in the Navy shipbuilding plan that had the most significant increase. So we have a challenge here that goes beyond what we were preparing for last year, which was 1 submarine procurement per year and 1 ballistic missile submarine procurement per year, for a total of 2. And now what we're talking about is increased fast attack procurement, along with the challenge of building a new, bigger class of ballistic missile submarine. So administration's priorities, as we understand it, I get to look at that. I get to look out 30, 40 years ahead. I do the integrated enterprise planning, which is really a 20-year view, so I'm really forward-looking here. We're modernizing for the 3rd time in the country's history another generation of nuclear deterrent submarine, okay? And that happens infrequently. So that demands on top of everything here. That's foundational to our national security. It's the Navy's most important program. The Navy is expanding its fleet to over 350 ships. The administration is looking to repeal the Budget Control Act, which is currently capping defense spending, potentially mitigating or limiting the ability to expand the Navy force structure. The administration's interested in shovel-ready projects. We are on a hot production line on the Virginia-class submarine. That means we can build these things. The design's complete. It's just a matter of programming and the budgetary resources to go implement the increased production. There's a focus on U.S. manufacturing and U.S. jobs. And our submarines are all built in America. So this is great for our region, great for the economy at not only the local level, for the national level. We expect the budget to be submitted next week, is what we're hearing. It's going to be looking for, we think, about $639 billion at the DoD level. That's an increase, 10% over the Budget Control Act caps. So that's just a signal of potentially more spend. Our business is really focused on 3 value chains: engineering and design, construction, and overhaul and repair. The fact that Electric Boat supports the 15 submarines at the subbase, and we're seeing what these submarines, when they come back from their deployments, what they look like, what the problems are, that makes us a better builder and a better designer of submarines. So the fact that we are here with the subbase in this region, and that combination of national assets is working synergistically together, is something that we should never underestimate. Last time I was here, we were at 14,100 people. I'm happy to report now we're at 15,100 people. We've added about 1,000 people to our employment roles. About 700 of those are in the operations trade area, and they're really focused on a major job we got in last year to do an availability, our largest availability, on the USS Montpelier. That's a fast attack submarine. We've also increased our roles on the engineering design side. So about 2/3 of our business is in construction, less than 1/3 in engineering and design, and about 7-8% is in the maintaining and maintenance of submarines. Last year, our projection, we actually hired about 1,600 people last year across all areas of the business. Quonset Point was 150. Groton was about 550 people. Groton Ops, this is the trade workers there. Engineering and design, about 550 people. Support people, nearly 300. So that makes up 1,550 people hired last year. And the projection this year is 2,200 people. So this is a pressure, okay? We're looking, and I don't see us not hiring at any given year going forward. We're going to be hiring and looking for people to come in. We're actually doing job hirings on the weekends, and we go through a screening process, and in most cases we're able to offer a job on the same day if all the parameters look right. So we have ramped up our hiring process. We've made it more efficient to reduce the time between when an applicant comes in and when we're able to get them on the shop floor. So the visual, we got 3 main facilities, as I mentioned. New London facility is about 3,500 people working there. So when you think about that, what does that mean to you? What it means is 3,500 people get up and they're driving from someplace in this region to that facility. They're going to work there all day and they're going to go leave. Maybe they stop to eat, maybe they pick up takeout, maybe they get their car fixed. But that's the kind of interaction that's happening every day at that facility. Quonset Point is 3,600 people leaving wherever they live and going there. We have residents of Connecticut that work at Quonset. We got residents of Rhode Island that work at either in Groton or in New London. So there's a lot of mixing and cross-pollination in our region with people trying to get to work. On the Groton side of the river, either at the sub base or down in the shipyard area, 7,500 people get up and go to work and leave the work every day. So you ought to be thinking about that when you think about how you get our employees what they need to want to come here, want to stay here, want to work here, want to raise families here, and then want to actually, retire here. So the pressure, I talked about pressurizing the region. The main forces there are the program. So we expect to be implementing a lot more work, supporting 2 classes of submarine construction. We're going to be building facilities, so that's going to be basically adding a big demand signal. The facilities that existed when we did this the last time in the 80s were basically downsized during the low rate production period that happened in the 90s. We now have to recreate some capacity and capability to support both programs. So that's going to be putting a demand in our region on people to come in and help us get these facilities through the permitting process and actually built. And there's a driver for this. We can't be late on this stuff because these ship schedules that are needed to support that fleet structure, we know how long it takes to build a Virginia-class submarine. It's about 5 years, a little over 5 years. When we start building the Columbia-class SSBN, that's going to start at 7 years, and it's going to drop down to 6 years over the course of the 12 submarines there. And then workforce development. I mentioned our hiring statistics, and that's going to be year over year. We're going to have to bring people in at that level year over year and make them want to work in manufacturing as well as some of the other positions we have in the support area of the business. Virginia-class construction is proceeding pretty well. What we got today is 15 ships in backlog between Block 3 and Block 4. We are anticipating another contract award for Block 5. We haven't got the request for proposal yet, but that's likely to be what we're hearing for 10 additional submarines. So as Al pointed out, I was the proposal manager for the Block 3, 8 submarines. Then we had in 2014 an order for 10. And then we have now in front of us an order for another 10. And this will have a new configuration where there's basically 83 more feet of ship to build. So we expect that demand to be significantly increased relative to the current construction operations. So what's the future look like? So in Connecticut, we have a lot of spend in our supply chain supporting these programs. Over the last 5 years, we've spent $500 million with just our suppliers from Connecticut. You can expect that to increase, especially as we get closer to this Block 5 contract for 10 additional submarines that we expect to be awarded in fiscal year 19. So that's all our categories of direct program support. In addition to that spend will be the spend we need to make on our facility plan. I think the last time I was here, we were talking about a little bit of what the elements of our facilities plan is. What we're planning to do in our facilities is add a couple more final assembly bays dedicated to the Columbia class. That's going to start construction in October of 2020, and we expect to be delivering that ship by 2027. It may seem like it's far off, but it's really not. We're in the process of finishing that design just so we can start building that ship. But the vision for the facility plan on the Groton waterfront is to add these assembly bays with a launch floating dry dock for launching the submarine. So we're going to basically have separated operations on the Groton waterfront, one dedicated to Virginia-class final assembly, test and launch, and one dedicated to Columbia-class final assembly, test and launch. There's a few other modifications that we're thinking about on the waterfront, and as I mentioned, Christine Kennard is going to be working through those details, but you can expect that we'll be putting hundreds of millions of dollars into facility improvements on the Groton waterfront. On the partnership side with the training and the workforce development, we've implemented partnerships with Grasso Tech, Three Rivers, Yukon, Quinnipiac. We work closely with the Eastern Connecticut Workforce Investment Board, establishing pipelines. We currently have arrangements in our pipeline development for about 3,000 seats for training the skilled trades. We're talking about welders, ship fitters, sheet metal workers, electricians, the whole gamut of skilled trades. So we've worked closely with the local communities in both states to establish these training programs that we feed the curriculum requirements and the capacity limitations to. And then we will work closely with the states on developing capability to be able to attract and bring and train people. And the benefit at the end of the pipeline is they have a job at Electric Boat supporting the advanced manufacturing we do in the two programs. We did implement reopen our apprenticeship program. Today it's focused on the Groton side with the Metal Trades Council and the Marine Draftsmen Association. We're planning on implementing that in this year in Quonset as well. So that's just a quick snapshot of what we're doing Electric Boat, and I would appreciate what you all do for us to support ourselves, the training of our workforce, obviously to make a nice environment for people to want to come here to this region and work here, because we have the jobs for them. That will never end, I don't think, unless there's a significant change in what we see the future being, and I don't really see that happening. So with that, I'll end my remarks.